Hello and salut, everybody. Question of the day is, what would you do if? Welcome back to my channel, Nick's Quarantine Survival Gear. Before I tell you that if, what would you do if? I want you to subscribe right now to my channel. You will be doing me a huge favor. You'll be helping me reach my goal this year. So subscribe to my channel right now. If you're new or you have not subscribed, please do me a favor. Help me out right now. Like at the end of this video if you like it. And also share with everybody that you know and check out the rest of my videos. I thank you in advance for your support. So now we're going to talk about what would you do if. Remember that show on NBC? They used to call it "What Would You Do?" They used to put videos, hidden camera, to see what would people do if something was. Would they be a good Samaritan? Would they be a good neighbor? You know, a good person by doing the right thing. The show was called "What Would You Do?" So my question today is, what would you do if somebody thought your spouse was your child? What would you do? How would you react? Well, a few months ago, I saw a Family Feud. Steve Harvey making fool out of himself as always. I like watching him sometimes. And the question was, they asked 100 women, what would you do if people assume your husband was your son? And you can imagine what people say. They will say, I'll slap them, I'll beat them up, I'll be upset, I'll do this and do that. Well, I experienced it today. It happened in real life today. So I went to pick up, I order curbside pickup. Normally on weekends, I like to eat something different. If I don't make it myself, I like to order something different to eat. So I went to pick up, and with the shortage, with everything, I had to wait. Even though I went there late to pick up, when they told me to come, it was still not ready. So I sat at the bar to wait for wanted to just get a drink. So I sat over there to get to wait for my food. And then all of a sudden I see these couple come into the into the restaurant. And then all of a sudden I hear people fighting behind me. I was like, what the hell is going on? The lady flipped. She was upset. But long story short, the whole point is the waiter addressed her husband as her son. So she was upset. She flipped. But long story short, and when she told me this, I was laughing so hard. She got even frustrated. And I said, no, don't be upset. There was a reason why I was laughing so hard, because of that question on Steve Harvey. We ended up discussing this outside. I told her that she didn't eat. They left. So I went outside with her. So I told her this story about what, the Family Feud question. And I also told her, I said, when I heard that show, the question was asked. My question was, what would you do if it was the opposite? If people always assume your son was your husband, especially when you out there trying to date, trying to find your actual husband, and people think that your son is your husband. What would you do? So that is my dilemma. What would you do if that is happening to you all the time? I know that I'm not the only one with, older child who had a child when they were a child. I know that a lot of people have an older, sons and daughters. And I'm sure that when you go out with your daughters or with your sons, people will just assume, because they are grown, kids are getting older now. They're getting big and taller than you. They will assume that you are a couple. That was my dilemma, because that's what has been happening to me. So we sat there. I spent an hour, talking about this, and she felt better. They went back to the same restaurant. But the whole point was I gave them all my story that I'm going to give you here. When my son was in high school, when I would go to his school, they will just, assume that I was a student. There was one time I came to see one of his teachers on the hallway, and I was looking on the board, looking for direction. And this lady came out and she was one of the teachers. She was screaming at me, get in your class, go to your class. Aren't you late for your class? Do you not have... My first instinct was, I was offended. I was mad. I'm like, how dare you talking to me, screaming at me like that? You know, I am a parent. And then she apologized. That's when I'm like, wait, this is actually a compliment. But your first reaction when they tell you that, even though it's a good thing, it's a compliment, your first reaction, you get offended. I got offended. And then I realized, oh, it is a compliment. I'm glad somebody, you know, it's good that somebody thinks that I was still in high school when I am a parent. You know what I mean? And then we'll go to church one day. I went to church. My son used to go to church with me. And then, you know, he left and he wasn't going to church. And then this lady, one day she was like, oh my God, I've been meaning to ask you, is your husband okay? I haven't seen him. You have been coming to church by yourself. Is your husband okay? I was like, no, it's not me. I didn't even think about my son at all. I was like, no, it's not me. She was like, yeah, it's you. Remember you helped me out with your husband to the court last time? And I was like, oh my God, no, that's my son. So they just assume, because again, he's almost taller than I was, he is my son. In a restaurant, you know, we'll go to the restaurant, sitting at the bar, people just assume he's my son. And when he like, oh no, this is my mother. And then it's a whole different conversation. So it's fun at the same time. You know, it's frustrating. The first time somebody tell you that, you're like, oh, what? How dare you? We want to do a test drive. You're hearing all this story here. We want to do a test drive. You know, him and I, we want to do a test drive. And this lady, she wasn't even older. She was like the same age as him, you know, and she was like, so what kind of couple are you guys? Are you active? Do you guys drive a lot? Do you do? And I'm like, really? So I was like, no, what do you mean a couple? You see what I mean? I was like, I'm not a cougar. You know, don't call me a cook. So that's the thing. When somebody say this, every time this happened, he just laughs. He's always be laughing, smiling, and just let me do the reaction to it. But he would just be laughing. He'd just be smiling and laughing. It wasn't until after that, and she was like, oh my God, that's your son? And then it wasn't until, you know, we left, then we'll leave. And I'm like, you know what? First, I mean, I can't blame them because I'm wearing short shorts, you know, with my son. I'm wearing short shorts, you know, it was in the summer. I'm wearing all these short shorts walking with my son. Of course, people are going to think that, you know, you are a couple. So I'm saying this to say that even though it's a compliment for people to just assume he is my husband, the first reaction is you are angry, you want to attack, you want to be, how dare you, assuming that he's, you know, but in reality, it's a blessing for people to assume that he is, you know, your spouse. You know what I mean? So even with that is a positive, that I'm reacting to it that way first, and then come to my senses and realize it's a blessing. But I know the opposite is harder for people to tell you that your son is your spouse. Your spouse is your son, rather. So I'm just saying, so what I told her again is what I'm telling you this. If you're out there and you're always reacting to it, I know it's a reaction. We act to it, we react, and then we think later. I understand that. But if you are out there like me, people just assume, I know it's not easy, especially when you're out there, you're in the market, you're trying to get your husband and people are thinking your son is your husband. I know it's not helping, but it is a blessing. It is a blessing. And that shouldn't make us not go out with our sons. We still need to enjoy our sons. So continue to do that and your husband will still come. You know, even if somebody else thinks that he is, your husband will still come. So I want to address those of you who people think that your spouses are your children or your child. I want to tell you, especially my ladies, I want to tell you, if this is happening to you, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that you get to marry a younger man, a younger, you know, a woman. It's a blessing that you get to do that. So when people assume that, just smile and just tell them, just correct them. That's the easiest way. Don't get offended by it. they don't mean nothing by it, don't get offended. And I want to tell you, if it bothers you that much, if it bothers you that people think that your spouse is your child, what I would suggest to you, look at your wardrobe, look at how you dress, look at your makeup, look at your hair, look at you from head to toe, and see, is how you dress make you look older? Is how you dress make you, it may be the reason why people think that your spouse is your child? Look at you. Maybe you need to change how you dress. Maybe you need to change how you do your makeup. Maybe do less makeup. Maybe cut your hair. When you cut your hair, you're like 10 years younger. I'm telling you, I know. So cut your hair, or less makeup, less eyelashes, less everything, less clothes. I'm not saying go out naked, but less clothes. Change the way you dress, and so that you can get closer to, to look closer to your spouse, to your husband. So that's my recommendation. If you're out there, don't get offended anymore. Take it as a compliment. Don't act to it. Don't react to it that way negatively. Take it as a compliment and enjoy it. Change yourself, change your wardrobe, change how you look. Next time you're going out with your husband, look younger, feel younger, act younger next to your young, sexy husband or wife. That's my recommendation for you. So take it as a compliment, regardless of what it is. If they think your son is your husband, or your husband is your son, or your wife is your daughter, or your daughter is your wife, don't ever take offense to it. Just accept it and do whatever it is you can do in your power to make the changes that you need to make in your life. But enjoy it. All right? Be grateful and accept it. And, just smile. Smile regardless of what it is. That's what I want to tell you this Sunday afternoon. So I want you to share this video with everybody. Now you can give me a thumbs up if you like this. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you still have not subscribed. Please share with everybody. That's what I'm asking. Share with everybody. Subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Help me out. And also check out the rest of my videos. I thank you very much again for your support. And I'll see you next time. Please stay safe and blessed always.